Star Trek personal log. I had a request from Joe to actually wear my uniform, which obviously I'm not doing, but it is sitting here behind me. Let me get out of the way. You can see the uniform there. I don't know how well you can see it. There it is. And the gold braid. Just a lieutenant. Haven't been promoted in quite some time. Oldest lieutenant in the fleet. Okay, so there you go. I'm not full of crap, or I am full of crap and I just ran out and bought that uniform. That's not the case. I actually built that by hand. It's hand-sewn. Myself, my wife, and my grandmother, who actually was teaching my wife and myself how to sew. This is before she was my wife. And one of the reasons I married her, because she was willing to do this crazy crap, building Star Trek uniforms. She ends up wearing it more often than I do now. She wears it to the office Halloween party and such. The design was from the Franz Joseph Starfleet Technical Manual. So we got the sewing patterns from there, blew them up, made them into the normal size patterns, cut the fabric, and built the insignia from the specifications in that same manual. So if you're at all interested in doing that, it comes out okay, and you can see the way it is. The collar's not exactly the way that it's shown in the show, the way that it's in the manual, but you can kind of work it out. This was one of our first sewing projects, so even as crappy of a job as we did, it still came out pretty good, and people are fairly impressed. If you get the right color for the uniform, that goes a long way, and this red looks pretty good. Let me get out of the way. I'll switch the color back on just for a sec so you can actually see the color. There it is. Click. There's the color. Click. We're back to grayscale. I kind of like the grayscale with a little blur effect. It looks like a kinescope almost. So I kind of like it for my personal logs. About Star Trek, the greatest show ever. I continue with my logs. Alright. This log, other than showing off the fact that I actually am a big enough geek to have hand-sewn a uniform with the help of my wife and grandmother, other than that, I wanted to talk about how Star Trek was really a team effort. A lot of times when I start talking about this with Star Trek fans, they think I'm disparaging Gene Roddenberry. And that's not really what I'm trying to do. Roddenberry obviously was credited with series creator, and he had an executive producer credit and such, or associate producer. I don't even remember now. It's so unimportant. People get all bent out of shape with that, and that's not what I'm really trying to do. I am trying to point out that it was really a team effort. There were a lot of people involved, and just as an example, and again, it might seem like I'm picking on old Gene Roddenberry, rest in peace, but I'm not. Just as an example, look at the kind of Star Trek we would have had if Roddenberry had created the show that he really wanted to create. We would have had time warp instead of the warp speed. That whole sequence would have been different. Gene wanted to have shuttlecraft going down to the planet. But because of budget constraints, we ended up having the whole transporter system. And that created a whole bunch of different storylines that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't had the transporter. Roddenberry didn't create the Klingons or the Romulans. He didn't even create the Federation. His original plan was to have the USS Yorktown, not the Enterprise, the USS Yorktown, being a rocket sled, basically, flying around through space. Not the Starship Enterprise with the warp nacelles and all of this other stuff. I mean, it just wouldn't have been the same show if a bunch of other people hadn't come in and said, Gene, here's an improvement to your idea. And I mean, look, it was a great original idea. You know, the core idea of Star Trek. You know, this wagon train to the stars kind of idea. You know, great idea. Not disparaging Gene Roddenberry at all, but just acknowledging that you know, television show is made by a whole bunch of different people, and you know, you had all of these people that were working on it. You know, DC Fontana, Gene L. Kuhn, all of these folks who were really you know, and that's just to name a few. You know, a lot of them. The directors, the special effects guys, you know, the production staff, the art production, all of that. Just great effort all around. You know, some excellent matte paintings, the special effects, which I talked about last time. I mean, come on, let's face facts. We saw the ship flying around planets, flying through space, shooting all kinds of, you know, shooting down at the planet, shooting ships, shooting all kinds of things. A bunch of different kinds of spacecraft. You know, all those special effects shots with the view screens where people are interacting with each other on the view screens. You know, those are all special effects, and we just take those as ordinary, as expected in so much science fiction today. And you know, all those people that put all of those things together, you know, they need to be acknowledged. And not that they aren't, but you know, this is kind of my acknowledgement of all those people. How Star Trek was really a team effort, and I think that the more people understand the way that television is really a team effort, the way that, and the more they understand how it's put together, you know, that can really only help the art. I mean, I think part of the reason television is just so bad is that people just don't really appreciate a good television show, and that's not to put down, you know, the general audience, but the general audience is really ignorant of the way a good show is put together. They don't really see everything that goes into it, and you know, they don't have a full appreciation. And you know, that's partially because, you know, the education system is such that you don't really learn about these technical arts in school, so you don't really understand how things work. But, you know, again, Star Trek, greatest television show ever. So anybody who's interested in television, watch that show and look at all of the people who were involved, from script consultants to, you know, costume designers. These were some of the best in the business. So, more important than some core idea you might have for a show, surround yourself with good people, talented artists. So, yeah, again, I'm rattling on about the greatest show ever, which is why I get drawn into all of this great stuff. Watch more Star Trek, and yeah, thanks for watching.